Hello, NFL fans, and welcome to the first live show of NFLUKOPS. We are delighted and honoured to have former Team GB captain and former Buffalo Bills coach with us, who is currently doing work on Sky Sports, keeping Neil Reynolds in check. We have Phoebe Schecter. Thank you very much for joining us, Phoebe. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to chat all things NFL. And yes, I do have to, keep Neil on his toes.
Thank you very much. Just to get things rolling, I'm sure you've been asked this 100 times, but we'll ask it you anyway. So how did the American football journey begin?
Really, it is such a random way, if I'm being totally honest with you. It was when I moved over to this country, so going on 10 years this December, which feels mad. But I moved over originally to work with horses, and I was just looking for a way to meet people and get a bit of American culture. I was definitely missing home at that point. As you can imagine, December and January in England, rainy, dark, all the things we are looking forward to now. So yeah, I saw an ad on Facebook for American football in Manchester, and I really just went for it because I think when you're out of your comfort zone, you're so much more willing to take risks. And yeah, even though I'd never played a contact sport before, that was kind of my step into it and the greatest decision I ever made.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So which teams have you played for leading into before Team GB?
Yeah, so I played for a team called Birmingham Lions. I played for a men's team called Staffordshire Surge. I'm based up in the Northwest, so you're getting a vibe for that. But flag, I've played for a bunch of teams. Like there's teams in London, so London Rebels, Sheffield Vipers. I mean, if there's an opportunity for me to play football of any shape, I am involved.
That's fantastic. And why did you choose linebacker?
You know
did
what?
that sort of choose you, or did you choose it?
Yeah, so when I first started playing, I actually was put at quarterback because of my accent. I had zero skill set at quarterback, to be very clear, but I had no idea what was going on anyway. So they were like, either hand it off or throw it. Perfect. And it was really actually when I joined GB that they said, we had a really good quarterback come along our program, Joe Kilby, and they said, look, she's much better than you, basically. So if you want to be involved, you're going to have to find another position. And I'd already had an affinity with contact, and they just put me in at linebacker, and that was it. I fell in love from the second I got to properly hit somebody.
Yeah, it's always been said that it's more fun playing defense than offense. Do you agree?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you get to play with heart and feelings, and especially when you're first learning, they're like, all right, this person has the ball, find them and hit them. Perfect.
And so representing Team GB, what's your best memory of representing Team GB?
Well, I mean, the whole thing has been incredible to just represent your country within sport, and especially one that, I'm so passionate about. I'd say my greatest memory was our European Championships going back to 2015 now. We were in Granada, Spain, and it was our first real tournament, especially playing 11 aside, because domestically we were playing 5 aside at the time, and now 7s. And we ended up coming second in the tournament. We lost to Finland in the finals, but just being so proud of that team and the heart and passion that everyone had and everyone played with, and all the other countries were so proud of us. It was, I'll never forget that moment.
That's fantastic. And obviously the ladies have done very well again this year, just being pipped obviously by Team USA. So
I know, crazy. We were 14-14 at halftime. I mean, that was mad and so exciting.
And so, what advice would you give for women that wanted to give American football a try?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely get involved. The community that you'll meet, the social settings that come along with it, but there's a position for everyone, no matter your shape or size. The amount of women we have playing that had never played sport before, or, they have kids, or, there's just so much that you can learn and you get from the sport. And there's never been, in all the sports I've ever played, there's never been a team sport like this where every person is like a cog in a machine. And if you don't do your job, then it's not able to spin it at 100%.
Yeah, and so are there lots of teams all across the country at the moment? And is it just over the summer, or can people access it all year round?
Yeah, so we have the non-contact version, which is flag football, and the women's league actually starts this Saturday, and that will go all the way through to December. If you're a university student, I know there was a bunch of freshers fairs this week, so people are already signing up. Then you've got senior league, which is basically like 18 plus, and you can start playing that from, I think that's February, March time. Women's tackle as well. I mean, there are so many different options for every age. And if you want to try and go for GB, absolutely come try out.
That's fantastic. Are you still coaching part of the Team GB team?
Yeah, so I've been with under 19s. I was still playing for women, so coaching with under 19s, and then women's, so in flag, we have our European Championships this upcoming August, so in a year from now, in Limerick, Ireland. So I want to be a part of that for Euros, and then the following year, we also have our tackle European Championships will be out in Finland again, and I want to compete in those. Let's get a gold now, people. Yeah. And then I'll retire. Priorities.
That's fine. We just had a message in the chat, so from Eliza Jackson. So she says, I think you're absolutely great, really inspiring for young women. Are you going to be on Sky Sports all the time now? It's great to see a role model on TV to show young girls what they can achieve.
Oh, thank you so much, Eliza. That's so nice. How funny, my sister's name is actually Eliza. There's not many of those around, but I'm going to be with the Sky Sports team throughout the season. I'll be doing the London games next weekend with them. I share my time with Talk Sport Radio as well. Those guys really gave me my first big opportunity in terms of commentating, which I'd never done before. So it's going to be a year now that I did my first commentary at the London games. But yeah, I'm glad that I can be a good role model. I just want as many people to enjoy sport and have as many opportunities as possible. So whatever I can do to help people, absolutely.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And so what is it like working for Sky Sports NFL?
It is such a big learning curve for me because I've never really done media. I think, you kind of learn through experience. I've done some interviews with, just as a GB player and had those conversations. And funny enough, I used to work with NFL UK. And so we have our international player pathway. And we did a bit of media training just with the guys, trying to get them ready for combine, and did some of the stuff with that. And some of it I couldn't take seriously. I was not very good at it. So, but the fact that now I get to talk about football every single week, pretty much every single day at this rate, which is so cool. And I share it with people who I get to learn so much from, Neil Reynolds and what a professional he is, and Jason Bell. It's such a dream to be able to be a part of all things NFL and help grow the game in the UK too, because I think one of the hardest things in football is making it easy. And I think we're still trying to find that happy medium of basically what, because there's people in the UK that have a really great idea. They're so smart. They know way more than I do. And then there's people that are entering the sport too. So I think we're still trying to find that happy medium to help everybody understand and fall in love with the sport.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And I know that you're doing work with Hannah Wilkes as well, to try and obviously push the show that obviously that Hannah's doing on a Wednesday at the moment.
Yeah, so we have our Her Huddle, which is really exciting because Obviously, I am all things women in sport. And it just highlighting amazing women who are doing things in the NFL. I mean, we had Amy Trask on last week, which is she's just a pioneer and a role model for so many people out there. Again, I had people reaching out to me, and it's not just about the NFL. I think she has so many life lessons to share with people, and not being afraid to, be confident in what you know, and take chances. I know Hannah always loved the if you think you can't work any harder, work harder.
And so moving on to your time, obviously in the NFL. So how did the whole Buffalo Bills internship start?
Yeah, so it really happened actually. USA Football used to host something called the Women's World Football Games. And it's pretty much like a 5-day camp for women from all over the world to come together, play football, get better games. And then they started collaborating with the NFL, who said, "Hey, let's turn this into a careers forum as well." So we'd have a panel, and you'd be able to ask these amazing people like any question. They were really open and transparent. But we had people like Scott Pioli and Kim Pagula, Ron Rivera, Dean Blandino. I mean, like these amazing top level people in the NFL who were just coming out to talk to a room of what started as 200 women. It's now a very quite exclusive program where you have to apply or get references, and it's open to only 50 women a year now. And so that is really how I got my foot in the door and got a much better understanding of where I wanted to get to. And I remember at that forum, they just talked to everybody and they did a random interview and they said, "Where do you want to be in a year from now?" And you're kind of running on the adrenaline of the whole event. And I remember saying, "I want to be a positional coach in the NFL." And literally it was about like a year and a couple months later, I had applied for the Bill Walsh Diversity Fellowship, which is just an open application, and got a role, crazy enough, with the Buffalo Bills through a rather rigorous interview process.
Could you tell us a bit about that sort of process you had to go through to do that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So back then, I don't think you have to choose your teams anymore. But back then you had to choose 5 teams that you'd be interested in participating with or interning with. So I chose my 5 teams. It was Atlanta Falcons, Buffalo Bills, the Jags. I felt there was a UK tie there, the Panthers, and the Rams. I think the Jags and the Rams never said anything. The Panthers said no. I was in talks with the Falcons because Scott Pioli has been one of my mentors pretty much since that careers forum. And I hadn't really heard anything from Buffalo. And I remember I was in the New York NFL office meeting with Scott Pioli and pretty much putting my name on the line essentially with them. And I had an email from Coach McDermott whilst I was in this meeting saying, "Can you get on a call in 10 minutes?" I'm literally not even joking when I say I'm running through the streets of New York, have to get a taxi because you can't hear anything. End up in this taxi on the phone with Coach McDermott. I'm on speakerphone, everyone's in the room, and he goes, "Are you speaking with anybody else?" And I wanted to be really transparent. At this point, I'd done, I think, 3 different interviews with people within his organization. Just they were trying to get a feel for what my understanding was and what my base knowledge was, which was really nothing, if I'm being honest, at that time, very minimal. And I said, "Yes, I'm speaking with Scott Pioli." And he goes, "Oh, right. Well, tell Scott, thank you, but you're going to be a Bill now." And that was it. And I was like, oh, my heart, just everything that I wanted to be a part of. And it was pretty much that year, 2017, I went to training camp with them. And yeah, it really changed my life.
And so, did you get put as you ended up working with, obviously, with the tight ends? Did you choose that, or did you get a choice in that, or did you sort of get pushed in that direction?
So my first training camp, every year, I've always wanted to apply with linebackers. And my first training camp, I ended up with DBs, which was really cool because that was, I had Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. It was Tre'Davious White's. He was a rookie. So spending time with him and those guys. And then my following year, I stayed in contact with them. Again, still wanted to be at linebackers. And they're like, "No, you know what? I think we're going to put you with tight ends." So then I was with Charles Clay, Logan Thomas, Jason Kroom, Tyler Croft, like all these amazing humans. And I stayed with them, and it was really cool because their tight ends coach, Rob Boris, he had never had an intern before in the 13 years in the league. So the learning that I had to do just from being around someone that's so used to doing everything for themselves, it really made me so much better because I constantly had to think 5 steps ahead of him because otherwise he would just do it himself. But it was the best experience ever.
And how were you, obviously as a woman, as a female coach, how were you received by the players and the staff there?
You know what? Buffalo are such a forward-thinking and progressive organization, and I think that messaging really has to come from the top down. I mean, besides the fact that you've got a female owner in Kim Pegula, um, whose daughter is a professional tennis player, and Jessica Pegula, and uh, then Coach McDermott, he's got 2 daughters. All of this really does play a role into the culture that's being created. And the guys were great. The players were great. I remember there was only one time ever, and it was my first ever training camp. And I was doing personnel groupings on the sideline. And I'm kicking myself because I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the linebackers that had been around the league for a very long time. And I remember stepping back to get out of the way of a play, and I stood on his toes, and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, baby." And then I looked, and he was like, "I am so sorry. I did not mean that." But genuinely, I think he'd never had a female around football. I think he just probably associated females for different environments, and you know, I, and he was so apologetic, and that was literally the only time. But I think that's also very much so. It's how you present yourself, and for me, I was always going to present myself as someone who's a professional. I'm there to be a quality coach, no matter what my gender is.
That's fantastic. Talking about what was a day in the life of a coach like? So if you could, because obviously we don't, apart from Hard Knocks and things like that, we don't really get to see too much. So what was sort of the day like as being a coach?
Yeah, so the day is is mad, if I'm being honest with you. Lucky enough, I lived with one of the athletic trainers, which I loved because she was a female. So that was my 5 minutes of being around a girl per day, which I always look forward to. So we'd have our 5-minute drive in together. We'd get to the facilities for 4:45 or about 5. Um, Sometimes if I had 20 minutes, I'd try and get a gym session in nice and early, be ready to set for the day. First meetings, we go meet with the players first. So I get my breakfast, all that. We'd meet with the players at 6. We'd have an offensive staff meeting at 6:15. We'd go then meet again with the players at 6:45 is like a more, a proper meeting then. 7:15 was into team meeting. Everybody was there. Then from team, you'd go into special teams, offense, and defense. Or so special teams, everyone, then offense and defense, then into your positional groups from there. Then we would go into walkthroughs. So this is probably about 10:15, 10:30. You go into walkthroughs. Everyone runs, grabs a snack. Guys get changed. Then we go into full practice. You do your practice for 2 hours. As practice ends, I'm running inside, getting the script basically printed from our practice so that we can all watch film whilst we eat our lunch together as a staff. So that's pretty much 1:45. You're doing that. Watch the film as a staff so that you can then go grade your guys. Go right into positional meetings with your players. Then you build up again into offense and defense and special teams. And then that pretty much takes you until about 5 p.m. And then you start breaking down your whatever day of the week it is. So let's say we're Tuesday, that might be 2-minute and red zone and 4-minute, or you might be breaking down blitzes. And then you'd have a big staff meeting at 5:30, and then you'd continue the night probably until 11:30, breaking down film. We had a couple times where we were there until 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m., and then you're back in again at 4:45. So It's
Wow.
madness, basically.
And so what was it like being on the sideline of an NFL game? How does that feel?
Yeah, I mean, so my sideline experience is more so in the preseason games because for the actual games in the year, up in the box, so I do transcribing of plays. I work with basically there's 9 of you in the box, right? So we each have different roles, tracking what's efficient, what's not efficient, what defenses they're running. We have like an entire stat sheet because you're not allowed to computers or anything up in the box. Um, and then, but being on the sideline, I remember my first preseason game, and you're just in awe essentially, and especially you know you've got games in the UK, and those are unbelievable, right? You get to see all these different jerseys, and everyone's excited. But if anyone gets a chance to go to a home game for an NFL team, it doesn't even matter which NFL team. I absolutely recommend it because there is no energy and feeling of one, and I mean, it's just like it goes through you. It's really incredible.
And what is your at your time at the Buffalo Bills? What is your either best memory, or have you got a funny story perhaps from your time there?
I'd say my best memory is people might remember it. We were playing the Vikings at home in Minnesota, and it was the game where Josh Allen hurdled one of the players. It's like a quite iconic photo of him. And I remember, one of our game plans at the time was to get the Vikings fans to leave by halftime. And to watch that sea of purple leaving the stadium because they are so loud otherwise, but to watch that sea of purple leave to really be a part of that was what our first win was that season. That was a tough season for us. But to get your first win and to go into the locker room afterwards with the guys, and if you could bottle up that euphoria, I mean, you could understand why you would want to be a part of this and put your body on the line for so many years because there is no replacement for that level of elation that you experience and the happiness of all the people, and to see something that you've worked so hard at and worked so hard for actually come to fruition is unbelievable.
And so we've got another question for you. So, did you obviously going through your day with the Bills? Did you get a day off when you worked for the Bills?
So depends on if you're at a home game or an away game. There's no such real thing as a day off. You have your bye week, and I think I had 2.5 days off during our bye week, kind of. Um, but you like during a regular week, a Friday is is what we consider a half day. I mean, we're done by like 6 p.m. So you still start at the same time, but you're done like 4 hours earlier. So you're done about 6 p.m. on a Friday, which is always really nice, to be fair. And then Saturdays, if you are traveling, then you fly out at like 1 in the afternoon, and then you go straight there, and you get a couple hours off in the afternoon. And if you're not traveling, then once you're done at 1 and you've done all your jobs, you don't have to come back until 6. So you've got like 5 hours off on a Saturday. But that's pretty much it.
Intense.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, can you talk a bit about Coach McDermott? What is he like? As obviously you've got first-hand experience with him. What is he like as a guy, as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget our first staff meeting, and he was just listing through his goals, what his values were, and I just remember hanging on every word because I just felt like this is exactly what I see in life. This is what I would wish for anybody. And to already feel like you're on the same page as everyone else. And he did this really cool thing when he first came to Buffalo. Basically, he invited anybody who works within the organization, right? If you are a chef in the kitchen or a custodian or you work in ticketing, whoever, if you are a part of the Buffalo Bills organization in any way, shape, or form, brought them all together and was really clear on what his vision and messaging is going forwards. And basically, that was the opportunity to get the buy-in from everybody and make it really clear that we can't do it without all of you. And he is just such a true leader in and out. And you know little things like we were walking down the hallway one time, and there was a sticker on the floor. I mean, just, like a garbage basically. I remember he just like leant down to pick it up, and you think, he thought of one Bills Drive as his home, and everyone there was his family, and he took such pride in where he lived, and it was just it's so special to see that from a head coach, because you don't expect them to do that. They're making millions, they got other things to worry about, but no, it's very cool.
And it seems to be going very well for the Bills. Obviously, they've had a massive upturn over the last couple of seasons. Do you have a loyalty to the Bills, or do you actually have a different NFL team that is close to your heart?
You know what? I think it's so hard to not root for the Bills, even if I'd never been a part of the Bills. I mean, just watching them, you get excited and you see that they care about what they do. So my loyalty, because it's not just the players, it's staff, it's scouting, it's front of house, it's the video production team. Like, I have such an invested passion in what they're doing, and I want them to be successful, and I still talk with them all the time. So it's like watching your best friends out there, and you want them to be successful. So they're definitely my team. I think when I lived in the States, and I really didn't know anything about football, but I was from New England, so I think you naturally have to be a Patriots fan. But once you play the Patriots, I'm like, these guys are not the one. They make your life so difficult.
Yeah, but the tables have turned now, as they often do in the NFL. The Patriots could actually be the third best team in that division now. Obviously, the Bills playing the Dolphins this weekend is sure to be the game of the week. Do you think?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm so excited for it, because this should be, Coach McDaniel is such a offensive mastermind, and he's got two weapons in Waddle and Hill that can take the top off a defense. They're really hard to literally slow down. You really have to be a smart person when it comes to scheming against them, because you don't want to, a lot of corners are afraid to press someone like Hill, because they'll just be, embarrassed essentially. But then you also don't want to not press him, because otherwise you're letting him run a 40. And I don't know many people that are trying to run a 40 against Tyreek Hill.
And I bet obviously Neil. How well were you with Neil on Sunday after the Dolphins results? And was he jumping around? And what was he like?
Yeah, Neil was on good form, man. He's very excitable. He's very good at keeping his composure, but I knew he was buzzing. He's a fan. He is so smart when it comes to football. His memory, his ability to recall stats, and I mean, all of that's incredible. But so yes, he was very, very excited.
Is it all just talking about Neil just for a second? Is it all?
Yeah.
Is it all planning and research and things that is where he's pulling it from, or is he researching in between? Obviously, when the game's on and in between, or is he getting the stats in his ear, or is it Neil that's coming up with this from research that he's done?
Yeah, so it's definitely a combination. I mean, for a show, it is hours and hours of research on all of our behalves. I spend most of my time driving, so I'm listening to podcasts, I'm absorbing as much as possible. I'm probably studying at least like 6 hours to try and get ready for a Sunday. Neil, I'd imagine, is doing even more than that. And there's a big team that supports us, right? So, he might be watching something and say, hey, I think I want a stat on that. Can you give me the stat on this? And the team through the ear are able to pull up some stats. But he has a great recall. He's able to pull up things that I probably wouldn't even know or remember, if someone playing in this year at this time. And because he's also been doing it for a long time now, and he remembers those experiences. And, then to be able to do all that and be able to, create conversation amongst the rest of us and kind of facilitate us. We're like little kids, right? So you have to be able to, like herding cats otherwise, if we didn't have someone like Neil to organize us.
And obviously working with Jason Bell as well, he seems like a great guy that you'd like want to go for a drink with. Is he like that in real life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've even in my few times working with him now, I've learned so much from him, whether it's about football or how to present yourself or things to do or not to do. And he's always trying to teach, which is so cool. Especially someone like me, I love feedback. So as much feedback as I can get as an athlete, like how can I get better? How can I improve? He's great. He's again so knowledgeable, and it's really cool because we'll watch the game together and he'll talk about things that he sees. I can talk about things that I see, and we might hear what the other one has to say and think, "Oh, I didn't even think about it like that." And we're able to create really interesting conversation off of it, and it's been such a great chemistry, to be honest, with the three of us, and I've really enjoyed working with them so much.
That's fantastic. And so we've just got another question from the chat for you. So why this sport over others? I know that you are interested in other sports, and we'll come on to, is it kabaddi?
Yeah,
Yeah, do you want to
kabaddi.
talk about that as well? Yeah. So, but why American football first of all, before we do go on to that?
Yeah, you know what? American football really became my family, if I'm being honest. And I think I look back to literally what will be 10 years ago. And like last summer, I went to the wedding of a girl who I met at that first training session. I still play with one or two of them, and some of them have kids now. And it's just, I was looking for a community and American football. And I don't think you even have to play to realize that there is a massive American football community who really are supportive of each other. Just looking at even your Twitter thread, the amount of people that are they're getting engaged and want to be a part of something greater themselves. That's absolutely what I think American football does. And I think it's a sport that finds you. And I think that's really cool. The amount of people I talk to that, they got involved with the sport and like the sport found them, and that's how they fell in love with it. And it's really given them a sense of purpose. And I think when I started playing, I really became quite confident, and I felt empowered just through playing it. You kind of walk around like puffing your chest up, like, yeah, I play American football, no big deal. So yeah, I mean, the social side of it, and then to be honest, like for me, I play linebacker and predominantly in tackle, and hitting people is like the best feeling in the world. And I think just playing it for me really became a source of essentially meditation, right? Where you're in a zone where you don't think about anything else other than what your roles and assignments are. And that's been really cool. So yeah, I've been very excited.
Sorry, I think I lost you for there for a second. So in terms of kabaddi, am I saying it right? Yeah.
Yes,
It sounds like
yep.
a very interesting game. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So if for any of our people that play kabaddi, it's an Indian sport. So you might hear like either kabaddi or like technically when we play we say kabaddi because it's one of India's natural national sports. And you have to say kabaddi. People might remember it from I think late 80s, early 90s on Channel 4 when it used to be on TV. And essentially it's a game of like it's a mixture of like British Bulldog, rugby without the ball, and a bit of like MMA or tag.
So so it's violent then?
Yeah, I mean, there's a common theme here, really, with me. I don't know. I love violence and aggression.
That's fantastic. And is there any other sports you take part in?
So those are my big three. I did so kabaddi. I do. I play kabaddi for England, Great Britain, flag and tackle for Great Britain, and so those keep me quite busy if I'm being honest. But I mean, the rest of the time, like the gym is my life. I love that's like my other de-stressor when I'm not able to go play sport, and any opportunity to just kind of run around and have a bit of fun.
Yeah, brilliant. And um, another question for you. In comparison to association football, so obviously soccer, as we call it. No, actually, we don't call it. That's what Americans call it. Players in the UK, it appears that much more is expected from NFL players in terms of the time at work and attention to detail and work ethic. Would you agree?
Yeah, massively. And I've loved watching. I mean, it's one of the really cool things I've been able to do whilst with my coaching career and kind of being over here is working with a lot more, well, a variation of sports. So I've worked with England hockey and I've worked with different football associations. I've worked with like Walsall and Shrewsbury and all these different football clubs, which has been amazing. But I've loved watching Arsenal's All or Nothing. And that's been really cool because just seeing how a different sport manages it. And I see in that they watch a little bit of film on themselves. And I know it's a lot more, you have set pieces, but it's a lot more like free movement. Even it is still like an invasion game. But when it comes to American football, we are so detailed and so prescriptive because every play, every single person has an exact role, an exact route that they have to run. There is freedom and there is creativity within their jobs, but you're still pretty much having to be so precise of what you're doing. So that also means then that our review period and our reflection and all of that is way more in depth because you're looking at, what your first step is or, what your hand placement is and what's going to give me that advantage. Because one of the things that the NFL is so good at is creating this level playing field. You look at the draft system and, worst basically gets a first pick and, they want that parity. And the only way that you can start trying to get that competitive edge then is how much time you're putting in film, who are your coaches, what is the environment you're creating. So you have to start looking elsewhere for that 1%.
And you're talking about parity, and that's exactly what we've got after 2 weeks in the NFL. Only 6 teams undefeated, only 6 in just 2 weeks. And obviously, we're going to lose more of that with the Bills playing the Dolphins this week as well. So that's what's absolutely fantastic about the NFL, and especially at the start of the season, it's so unpredictable. That's what makes NFL so fun to watch.
Yeah, massively.
If you could choose a team other than the Bills that you could choose any team to work for, which team would you choose?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Um, yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I mean, I think I'm gonna say two teams, right? So I'm gonna say the Chiefs because not because of them being a winning team, but because of Andy Reid. I'd love to learn from Andy Reid and Coach McDermott is an Andy Reid, disciple essentially. He does come from that same coaching tree, so it'd be really cool to work for somebody like that and see how they're able to, just see what the differences are really. Like, what did Coach McDermott hold on to? What are the key things that he took from Andy Reid? And then go to Andy Reid himself and then see, like, what can I take from Andy Reid? Because one of the things that makes coaches great is you're always stealing from other people, essentially. Like, I'm going to take something from Coach McDermott and I'm going to take something from, Jim Harbaugh or whoever it is out there. And I'm going to then create my own identity and my own philosophy based off of that. And I think one of the other ones I'd really like to learn from is actually Coach McDaniel because, I watch him in his interviews and I looked into some of the stuff that he's done. And I think he thinks so differently to other people. I think he's so like analytical and stats driven and he's not afraid to challenge how people view the sport. And I think that would be really quite cool to be around.
And talking on the lines of the Dolphins, do you believe in Tua?
Oh man. I don't know. I'm not fully sold on him yet, if I'm being honest. I think his first game I was not really impressed. I don't love his throwing style. I already I after the first game, I already had people coming messaging me saying, "You're such a Tua hater." It's not that. I think we look at the different quarterbacks that we have in the league right now, and they are so elite that when you don't have a quarterback who perhaps matches that level at the time, and I know I'm going to get the Tua hater line because I saw him last weekend, right? We saw the history essentially he was making, but he was still underthrowing his guys. Tyreek Hill's having to wait for the ball, and he's someone that works so much on timing that if he doesn't just get that ball right away and get it downfield, it really throws off the whole play. So I think I want to see more of him. I don't want to have that judgment call now, because I feel tight on him. Like, he's had years of people waiting for him to blossom, and can he do what he did last Sunday again this Sunday? I don't know.
I think a lot of fans are feeling the same. I mean, we spoke to Big E, Miami Dolphins 2 fan at the start of the season, and he himself said he was sat on the fence still. Obviously, he wants the Dolphins to win. He wasn't completely sold on Tua, but obviously having the weapons that they've got now could cover up, the slight weaknesses that Tua does have.
Yeah, and that's what you want, right? Like, you want him to be able to, he's being protected. He's not really being overly threatened in the pocket. If you can continue to create an environment where he's able to get that ball out and get it out on time and give his receivers opportunities to, catch the ball with yards after catch and mix in a bit of that run game because, you still have a brilliant running back. I just think that if you start playing defenses that know that that's what he's going to do, which a good defensive coordinator will know and the players will study, like, will he be exposed a little bit? The Ravens defense, they were a bit banged up and they didn't really look like they're on the same page a couple times. Go against a really quality defense like, look at like 49ers defense. They're firing all cylinders. Or, hate to say it, the Bills defense, like, those guys have a pretty good finger on what's going on. And I just don't know if it's the same result if it was against a different team.
We'll find out this Sunday.
I know. Watch the Dolphins win. I'll be like, yo, I'm so sorry. I don't know anything.
And so, talking about the NFL this season, then, which teams do you fancy as being true Super Bowl contenders?
So, I'm going to go with my Bills. But I also did say the Eagles. I really like the Eagles this season. I love watching Hurts. I love the addition of AJ Brown. I mean, that is a game changer for the Eagles. Terrible for the Titans, as we saw last weekend. Darius Slay was on fire. Like, these guys want to bring another Super Bowl back to Philly, and I think watching Hurts being able to, last year all they were saying is like he can't throw the ball. All he can do is use his legs. Like, we're watching Hurts throw the ball now, and he is doing a pretty good job. So, can he continue this upward trend over the next few weeks and continue to develop and grow into a well-rounded offense? I think they can. Yeah, absolutely.
So you're going for a Bills-Eagles Super Bowl. So are you picking the Bills in the Super Bowl over the Eagles?
Obviously. Yeah, definitely. Everyone should.
And what's your thoughts on Tom Brady's unretirement? Do you think he should have come back?
I don't know. It's hard, right? Like, because he is still, I would say, better than a lot of people at what he does for a job, right? I mean, essentially, there aren't many people out there that you would say, oh yeah, that's an even trade or that's better instead of Tom Brady. Last weekend, I know that he was getting frustrated and the Saints defense are always going to give him a hard time. But look what he was able to pull out of the bag. Again, fourth quarter. I mean, a 3-3 game the entire time. And Brady is just a pro. And I think as his weapons around him develop more and he continues to build that trust with them, Mike Evans comes back, which would be helpful. Like, all of that will help play into a really, again, well-rounded offense with an absolute mastermind in terms of Brady who can pick apart any defense. You show him man, he's going to go here. He's going to choose his matchup. You show him zone. He knows where the holes are. He's been playing this sport for so long. He can literally dink and dunk, and he doesn't even have to throw it very far. And he's actually playing now like a really fun style of football with a coordinator who supports him in terms of like the Brady way. You think when Arians was there in a head coach role, even he had said he had to change how he was, there was a new offensive scheme. So he was having to change what he was doing. But now you watch him and he's playing a bit more like Brady at the Patriots. Don't take last weekend as it, because the Bucs defense held them together.
And so now we've talked about the better side of the NFL. Who's going to be the number one overall pick? Who's going to be getting the number one overall pick this season, do you think?
Oh man, there are some bad teams at the moment. I mean, I'm I'm surprised that, to be honest, I'm surprised that the Cards were able to pull it out, but like the Texans, they're still struggling in their own right. They have been struggling for a couple years now, on the trot, which is never good. I'd be interesting to see what the Bears do this year. Yeah, there's a couple teams out there that you think, I don't know. I don't even know how the Broncos are going to do, and they have a veteran quarterback. They have a pro in Russell Wilson. I just think it's really hard right now. Again, being week two,
it doesn't seem to be. It doesn't seem to be the Russell of past, does it? I don't know what the issue is with Russell at the moment.
No, it doesn't seem like they're really on the same page. And Nathaniel Hackett's a new head coach. I don't know what that really, what their relationship is. It doesn't look like they communicate as much as you would expect your quarterback and your head coach to do. I think Russell probably feels like he probably feels that pressure on himself as well. We had a couple glimpses of him being that Seahawks Russell, throwing the ball down the field, but for me, it's 4th and 1, whatever that may look like. You brought in Russell Wilson, like he is a pro. Have him throw the ball. Have him, hand it off. Whatever it is that you need to do. Don't bring in a kicking team. Like you've got a pro. Get those 6 points on the board.
And so, thinking about you and your future career, what is it you're hoping to do moving forward? Is it coaching, or is it more analyst, pundit, or what is it that you're wanting to do moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'll never not want to be coaching. Like I absolutely love that, and it was really cool. Last year, I was coaching out in Germany, in the GFL 1, and that was such an amazing experience for me. Um, I do think that if I go back and like I'm able to go back to coaching full time, that I would want to be in the NFL, because even though that schedule was crazy that I listed through earlier, there's no comparison for that elite level and that environment that's created. And so, even I felt that when I was in Germany, like I loved it. And as Andy's talking about for GB, I love coaching for GB, and I love imparting whatever knowledge I have and learning from the other coaches and the players. And it's just incredible because there's so many opportunities to develop the sport. But I'm like, I just want to be around the top athletes and watch them just work themselves, and be with a coaching team where you get to eat, sleep, live, breathe American football 24/7.
And yeah, that's fantastic as well. And we've got another question in terms of, I think you talked about it right at the very beginning, but what is your connection to this island to get selected for Team GB?
Yeah, so I've got dual citizenship. My mom is British and she was born here, so her family lives here. We basically switched places. I moved over here. She lives in the States. And so, like my auntie, all of them are over here. And, apart from not having an accent, like I do 100% feel like I'm British, not just because of, I guess, living here, but because of learning to play American football here. I learned about this great sport here. I feel like this is my home and this is where I've really set my roots. And, I feel like these are my people. And I feel very fortunate to have been embraced by such an amazing country, really.
That's brilliant. And so just to finish off then, for anybody out there that either is just getting into American football, or you suggest to give it a try, what would you say to those people?
Yeah, I mean, well, so avenues to do that would be reaching out to British American Football Association, or BAFA, basically. Reach out, find a club near you. It's not even just about if you want to play, because there's coaching roles, there's officiating. If you love rules, there's stats. Like, people are always looking for help within this sport. And, that's at all levels, whether it's youth or girls, boys, whatever it is that you want to do, just getting involved. But like, do not be afraid to take the chance, right? Do not be afraid to take these opportunities, because look at it like, what's the worst that happens? You're not going to be any better or worse off if you don't like it. At least you've tried something new, and you never know the opportunities that can come off the back of it. So, yeah. And if I can help at all, like, please reach out to myself, or we've got a company called UK Jukes. Like, all we do is football. So we just want to get as many people, as many opportunities, and fall in love with our sport.
And that's absolutely brilliant. And so just make sure that you do follow Phoebe on Twitter, Phoebe_Schecter. Are you also on Instagram? Is there any others that you're on as well?
Yeah. So Twitter, like Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. I'm not cool enough to be on TikTok. I keep trying, and I just can't bring myself to do it. I'm just not that cool.
That's brilliant. I just want to say an absolute massive thank you from us for coming onto our first show. We're honoured to have you on, and we look forward to watching you more, keeping Neil in check on a Sunday.
Thank you so much. It's been so lovely to chat with you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Right, and for anybody else that is watching, please make sure that you subscribe, click that notification bell so you don't miss any future shows that we have on. And our next show is going to be on Sunday, and we also release our daily shorts on YouTube as well. So make sure you check us out. Thank you.